Today I'd like to teach you 4 vitally important principles about how to activate and develop your intuition so that you make more winning decisions, so that your best self will emerge in all that you do and you enjoy that wonderful flow state, where it seems like the universe has got your back. Principle number 1. It's important to get out of stress mode, to be centered, to be balanced, to feel peaceful, at ease. In other words, it's important to stay out of survival. When our body gets flooded with stress hormones, which is very easy to happen, it can become toxic. And even if it doesn't become toxic, it's probably the primary reason why people are not getting what they want, are not manifesting or co-creating in the way that they'd like to. And it's certainly a major blocker to your intuition, to clear thinking. When we are full of those stress hormones, we go into survival mode. The brain takes over. Again, it keeps you out of flow. So it's important, necessary to get out of this scarcity mode of consciousness into a state of joy, abundance, if you will, a state of gratitude and appreciation, a state of grace and ease. I know it's easier said than done. However, it can be done. So here's some simple little things to keep in mind. Walking regularly, going for a short walk, communing with nature, walking in nature, by the woods, by the river, by the ocean, enjoying things like that. A nice conversation with a friend. Things that help you to relax, that help you to take the pressure off. And meditation, I would say, in my 52 years of doing this work, is the number one, quickest, fastest way to activate your intuition. Plus, it's one of the best things you can do for your health and your well-being. And perhaps you know that. And just because you know that doesn't mean you're doing it. So that would be the first step. The second step, principle I'll call it, would be to have clarity of intention, to have a purpose, a value, that's something that's important to you as to why you want to develop your intuition. As an example, those of you who know me in my work, my name is Ken Coscia. I'm the lead instructor. I serve as the training director for the Silva Method. And way back when I was 19 years old, I started in 1971, and I've worked since then with hundreds of thousands of people globally in about 30 different countries, doing Silva Life and Intuition System, which is our core foundation program, what we used to call the Basic Lecture Series. And I also do graduate advanced programs. Well, I tell you this because what I've noticed in my travels is that when we do an exercise called caseworking, it's a game with intuition. If somebody goes into competition mode, like, I gotta show them how psychic I am, how intuitive I am, how good. And if somebody goes into fear mode, survival mode, worried about, can I do this? Will I be able to? And they're more concerned about, can I do it? They have great difficulty. They usually blow it. But if that person, in fact, I just finished an immersion of Life and Intuition System here in Farmington, Connecticut. And we maxed out. The classes these days are maxing out with a waiting list of people. And of the group of 44, one of the women, and I heard this from others, but one of the women in particular said, when I was worried about how good I would do, could I do this? Do I want to do this? I had no result. But when I was able to shift and think, we're practicing distant healing also in these games with intuition. We're practicing remote or prayer healing, as some like to call it. And if I started thinking about helping this person, and I don't know if I can, but when I had an intention to somehow, some way help this person, all of a sudden, with that shift, I was nailing it. I was so much more accurate. So can you see that in your own life, the importance? It's not about psychic whoopee, ooh, look how psychic I am. It's about having a clarity of thought or an intention to do good, to make a difference, to contribute in some way, to make a better decision, to tune in with a client or a customer more effectively so you can serve them better, to understand your children or your spouse or a dear friend so that you enrich in your relationship, you have fun together, you communicate more effectively. So when you're activating your intuition and it's reliable, these are the kinds of things you're going to look forward to. Making better decisions, wiser decisions, feeling like you're lucky. Not that you'll be far from perfect, but that you'll be more and more in the right place at the right time. You'll understand yourself better. You'll understand others. You'll be able to connect more deeply. When you think of it that way, you'll find it much more motivating. You'll be much more effective in activating your intuition. Third principle, just as important as, and I sort of alluded to that, you want to be playful. For example, in my classes, in these immersions, I say, hey, come play with me. Let's play some games with our intuition. Not a challenge, a game. You know how games go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. When I succeed in facilitating this experience, what we call caseworking, it's a big, huge game of intuition. It's awesome. It's life transforming. And succeed in getting people to be playful, to have the attitude, hey, if I get an impression and I'm correct, great. If I blow it, great. Of course, I don't want to blow it. I want to be accurate. But when we stop being obsessive, obsessive energy is worrisome energy. Obsessive energy is not passion. Obsessive energy comes from fear. It's fear-based. It's survival-based. And we become desperate under those conditions. Can you relate? And when you have ever been in desperation mode, if ever I've been in, and I have been in desperation mode, we don't think clearly, do we? We're more likely to make a mistake. We're more likely to make silly, ridiculous mistakes. And certainly it blocks the flow of intuition because it's fear-based and the brain takes over and it becomes all about survival and we become defensive. So I'll repeat, you want to stay calm, centered, be balanced. You can best do that through meditation, go for a walk, things to help you relax, take the pressure off. You want to have clarity of purpose, your intention, have a big value to it, big why. Third, you want to be playful, make it a game, take the pressure off. Of course you want to do your best. And fourth principle that really sums it up, it's called feedback. It's important that you have feedback that allows you to discern the difference between when your intuition is spot on and when it's off. We call them in the Silva Method points of reference, and it simply means there is a difference that makes the difference when you're wishfully thinking, or when you're in desperation mode, in fear, or when we are in flow, and we are in such a flow that we're more right than wrong. We're more accurate than off. And the surest, quickest way is with what's been called in studies in peak performance, deliberate practice. All that means is you get immediate feedback while you're in the zone, while you're having the experience, so that you integrate it, so that it becomes a part of you. And it's best to do this when your eyes are closed, when you're in an alpha theta state, like we spend 40 hours of training in the Silva program. And I would add the Silva Method program, I'm one of the original instructors. I'm the only one on the planet now with 52 years of serving in this organization. It's all I've done since I was 19 with that. And what we call caseworking is involved in deliberate practice, meaning it's an exercise between two people. Each brings some, we call them cases, situations. Sometimes they're health cases. It could be a business. It could be your home. It could be any situation, a challenge you're facing where you need more information. You want to identify the problem. You want to get to the root of it, and you want to understand also what steps to take to improve it. So you sit with your partner, and your partner knows, about it, but you don't. And you enter your alpha theta state, nice, relaxed, quiet state, and you're asked to intuit it. We use something, if you're not involved in Silva or have not read about it, it's called the laboratory dimension. It's very cool. It's a high-level game we play to access higher thinking, to access your authentic self, to access your inner genius, so to speak. And while in this state, you begin to intuit and you begin to express very specifically what you're sensing, what you're feeling, what you're visualizing, what maybe you're hearing. And then you get immediate feedback, yes or no. And the feedback also sometimes helps you to interpret, because you might be attracted to the chest area, let's say, but you don't say lungs, and that's where the problem is. That's just one example. Like I said, you can do your business, you can work on a relationship, you can work on your investments, a multitude of ways. Once you have a high level of trust, like a trust muscle, feel my muscles, because you've been there, done that. You have evidence to support, tons of evidence to support your conviction. I know what I know. I've had this feeling before, I've had this thought, this pattern before, and I recognize it. When I'm in this state, I'm correct. I'm more correct than not. And that's what immediate feedback gives you. And with due respect, although all the home study programs and the online programs some of them are better than others. I'll say some of them are pretty good, some of them may be excellent. They're really only an introduction to the principles, and you get some exercises. It doesn't even come close, though, to when you have an instructor guiding you step by step live. Virtually works, or in person, even better. That is a huge difference that will make the difference. So if you've been doing a lot of reading about the Silva Method, or you have the home studies, and you're enjoying them, oh man, wait till you are there live with an instructor, in person especially, or even virtually. It'll put everything together for you. Again, because of the deliberate practice. It's important, and all throughout the class, we're practicing with that. So my friends, just know, be advised, you are far more than you give yourself credit. You have far more capability. You do have infinite potential, and as long as you have the skills and the right training to develop those skills, you make them manifest in your life so your best self emerges. With respect to that, and intuition is no different. It's a skill set that can be developed. And I don't care whether you want to call it intuition, divine intervention, I don't know, inner consciousness, higher self, authentic self, the universe. Somehow, some way, you and I can access accurate, reliable information that we have had no prior knowledge of. We didn't read about it, we didn't hear anything, we didn't study, no one gave us a hint. It just, I don't even know how to describe it after these years, because it's a wonderful feeling. It's just a sense of knowing. Quick example about intuition, simple. My wife and I are driving to New York City from Connecticut. There's a place where we usually stop to take a peace stop, because once you're in Manhattan, it can take 30 minutes to go cross town and get to where you're going. So just as a matter of prevention, we stop. And then by the time, you park your car, you're in the garage, and then finding a place, rest area. So we're driving along. It's a little over 2 hours. It's not a big deal. And then we're going by a sign, rest area, which we know, we've seen it many times. She says, hey, you want to stop here? And we both just had this sense, okay, no big deal. We stopped, took care of business. And then about 15 miles later was this where we usually 99 and 9/10 of the time stop. And we had no idea. It was closed out completely. It was one of those ahas. Even the trip we made, we were in a part of town we hadn't been in for more than a decade, and she searched some restaurants in the area, wanted to have a nice lunch, and there were so many, and just had a feeling about one. Turned out to be superb. I don't say this to brag. You can do the same thing, and I'm sure you have. So can you imagine the possibilities when you can do this more so with a higher degree of accuracy? Not that I want to encourage it, but even things like day trading or investing. There is a knack to being in the right place at the right time. I'm not talking about having a crystal ball and predicting. Nobody has one. But some people have an uncanny knack of being in the right place at the right time. Have you noticed? Maybe you're one of those people. And some people have an uncanny knack of just the opposite. Wrong place at the wrong time. So again, my friends, keep in mind, stay centered, stay balanced. Principle number 1. Do whatever it takes. You can do that through meditation, going for a walk. Principle number 2, be clear about your purpose. Have a clear intention of purpose, something that's important to you, something that you value as to why you want to develop your intuition. And third, make sure that you're playful. Have fun. Take the pressure off. Give yourself permission. And by the way, it takes courage. And if you're watching this, you've been through the Silva training, I salute you, because you got to embrace being uncomfortable. And when we do personal development and when we are working on ourselves, let alone an exercise with your intuition, it is very challenging. And people think, I don't know, if I really want to do this. Even experienced people. The last class I had, there were psychologists in the class, life coaches, there were energy workers, there was a chiropractor in the class, there were mediums, 2 mediums, not one, but 2 mediums in the class. There were a couple of few educators, there were people who were still in school, and every single one of them would acknowledge, at first you could feel it in the room, they were tense. It takes courage to step out of that and give yourself the opportunity that maybe you will be off. And then again, maybe you're correct. Man, they knocked it out of the park. They were so accurate, and it was such a high. We finished on a high. People said, this is amazing, it's awesome. And when you challenge yourself and you're embracing being uncomfortable, because it's not fun sometimes doing inner growth, doing personal development. It can be very challenging. But when you do challenge it and you step up and then you go through it, there's such a relief. And it's the greatest, most effective way to build your confidence. So you have a choice. You can either be courageous, step up, show up, do the work, or avoid it. And as has been said before, the way you show up here is the way you show up throughout life. And the choice in life is to avoid conflict, to avoid the challenge, to be safe and keep getting the same old in our lives, or live up to the challenge, face it. It does take courage, breathe through it, and grow exponentially. You can do it. You've got this. Remember, you're far more than what you appear to be. I hope you found this of value, and that there's a lot. Watch again, share it with a friend. If you really enjoyed, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You get even more. I look forward to working with you. Perhaps one day you'll be in a training with me. That would be so cool. Thank you so much for listening.